All right, well, I think we're going to go ahead and get started. We've got a really great group. I'm excited. I wasn't really sure what would happen with a late June webinar and everybody ending school, so I'm thrilled that you all are here. Welcome to our final webinar of the school year, if you can believe that. I'm Corey Hall, and I am the Director of Curriculum Solutions here at STEM Education Works, and I, again, am so glad to see all of you. It's a great group. Before we begin, I just want to say thank you for joining us for the last 9 months, I guess, of webinars. We've had a continuing support, lots of interaction with you all, and I'm super excited about that. This will actually be my last webinar that I'm leading because my colleague Shantae will be taking over. You all met her last month, so she'll be taking over the webinars. I'll still be around and helping out, but you'll see her face for the ones coming up in the future. We will be taking a break over the summer, so July and August will be off, and then we'll relaunch again in September. So be looking for those emails, just like you saw this one. We'll have that first of the month invite, and then closer to the webinar, we'll have that follow-up invite. So stay tuned. You'll get those announcements for our fall kickoff in September. And with that, I am super excited to share with you our guest today. This was a really special one for me. I'm so happy. This is Dr. Liz Lubeskie. She is the technology coordinator at Manheim Central School District, and she agreed to come on and talk about her insights for leveraging technology to enhance education. We are really fortunate to have her today, not just because she is a very experienced teacher and tech expert, but she's also just a really good friend. So I had the privilege of working with her for many years. I taught her kids. We collaborated and co-taught at the middle school in Manheim Central School District in Central PA. I do want to give you a quick heads up. We are hoping to have some time at the end for questions. There should be a Q&A tab in your Zoom window. I think I set that up correctly. If you have questions throughout our interview, go ahead and post them there, and then I'll let Liz know what they are when we get to the end. If you're not seeing the Q&A, just put it in the chat and I'll try to cover that as well. And without any further ado, we're going to jump into our conversation with Liz Lubeskie. So welcome, Liz. Thank you so much for joining us. Do you mind just telling us a little bit about yourself before we jump into our questions?
Sure. I did have the privilege to work with Corey. This is my 23rd year, just wrapped up my 23rd year in education. My 8th year in this position, I did my first 15 in middle school. I am middle school teacher at heart. But my journey kind of changed around year 15. I started doing station rotations and using more and more technology within my classroom. And so I really started down the ed tech pathway and led me to this position within our district. For the last, I should say, this past year is my first year of actually only having to do this position for our middle and high school. Previously, for 7 years, I did our entire district. So it's nice not to be supporting 250 staff by myself and 3,000 students. So it's not a huge district by any means, but it's a lot for one person integrating technology.
Thank you. I am so happy to hear that you now have a partner in crime, because that is a lot to cover a district by yourself. So one of the things I'm just curious about is, you got to the end of the school year. I think everybody on here probably just finished up their school year. And I'm curious, you looking back, if you could share maybe a few of your best experiences, your favorite experiences over the year, and maybe any like a challenge or two that you faced. Would you be willing to share those with us?
Sure. So I would say the highlight of my year was I got an educational grant for brand new podcasting equipment. So we now have podcasting equipment at all of our buildings. Our high school's under renovation. We now have podcasting rooms set up with like a screen for their scripts, and it's very official looking. We got the Rodecaster kind of pad for podcasting. It's phenomenal. And since we implemented it, crazy, it's been literally nonstop. Like, Liz, can you come in and train? I call them sound engineers. So I train the kids that are in each group that are going to be handling the board. I call them our sound engineers, and I go in and train the sound engineers. I have already done the PD though for the teachers. So, how to introduce it to their classes, how to create the scripts, how to get the students. So it's a process, but I tell you what, it has been nonstop go, which I like being busy, especially in the classrooms, because that's what kind of fuels my passion for ed tech. I don't want to be sitting in my office. So that's definitely been like the highlight of my year. Challenge would be continuing to wrangle staff to be better at not just putting learners into new tech. So, oh, I want to try this. I'm going to make a class and just put these learners in it. And we had a few instances this year because things happen that, aren't great, where I had to like step in and say, okay, we are blocking that. That is going to get blocked. And teachers were like, had never read the, all of the policies on the privacy. And, we had students who were being, basically getting phishing emails, which they're not as equipped as adults. And not all adults are equipped either, to know what to do and handle those. So that would be one of the things that, and we've been trying very hard the last 3-4 years of everything has to come through us. So you don't just sign up for an account. If you want to, that's fine for yourself. You just can't make a class and like implement it with, 12-year-olds. So that's definitely been something. We had more instances this year, and I'm not sure why, because we have a lot of tools at our disposal.
Yes, that for sure. And this is kind of throwing an off the cuff question, but I'm curious, do you have an example of a way that your teachers are using podcasts? How are they planning to do that at Manheim?
So I'll give you an example. In our 6th grade classroom, we had a teacher who in social studies, they were studying World War II. And so they actually were interviewing, it was the students, but they were pretending to be different generals in different battles. And almost like they were doing this podcast back then and like in a bunker, like it, it was very, very like, you just, you just had this battle, kind of almost like a sideline podcast. But they were really, really cool. They were able to even like import sounds. So it sounded like mortars and things like that. So that's one example. The other example was that they were actually studying like mysteries and I'm missing not just mysteries, like thrillers and things like that. And they listened to a podcast about that. And the kids started asking questions and can we do something like this? And the teacher was like, you know what? Mrs. Lubeskie just said something about that. And so I got 2 tables on wheels. And I actually attached the podcasting equipment to the tables and wheeled them into the room because we didn't have the space in that building. And so they actually did those, like we just rolled them into I just was like, please be careful with this equipment. But it was just really, and then they created the scripts. We use the NPR has a really great resource with like links and examples that you can use. You just type in NPR. I think it's actually a podcasting challenge that they offer for high school, but they've got great linked resources that you can use.
Is the one that you were talking about for middle school, was it Mars? Does it have the word Mars in it? I feel like it was one that we used in the past that's really cute and the kids love it and they learn all about podcasting.
No, actually, that was the Oceans and Space.
Okay.
Like that was the Oceans and Space unit. So no, we actually made virtual field trips this year. So I actually got our students, we have Pear Deck and we got a student's access. And so they were actually able to make Pear Deck like virtual field trips to the different places that they were studying.
That's fantastic. I love that. So thinking about this past year, when you're looking at apps and technologies, can you talk a little bit, you mentioned a few, you mentioned Pear Deck, but can you talk a little bit about the most effective apps and technologies that you've seen this year and how they're enhancing teaching and learning in the district?
So I would say this is the last 2 years. Corey, because it's just gotten better, but Canva is my number one. I spent this morning training staff at our middle school on Canva. Canva, it kind of it just keeps evolving, and they're really good at listening to what we need. But I love that their mission is to get it the premium free for every teacher and every district. You can get a district site, a district web, or it's a district license it's free, but it is a district one. So you can get it, you can link it to your SIS, you can link it to LMS. It's just been amazing. They added so many cool features. I mean, I don't even know. It just puts everything in one spot. So this morning we talked about, it provides the digital resource part for the teachers. So like you're making digital agendas, or you need posters for your classroom and things like that. Or it can be a really great collaboration tool. They've got this thing called the whiteboard, kind of like Google Jamboard, but I think it's better than that.
It's better.
It's so much more, it's live. It's, I call it Google Live, which people make fun of me, but Google Live is different than Microsoft Live because Microsoft is a little bit laggy. Google's a little bit faster. So I call it Google Live. Like the collaboration can be pretty seamless. And so you can get students creating without the tools that we needed in the past. So like 3 years ago, I needed a green screen, which because we bought them together.
Yes, we did.
But I would need a green screen to be able to get a different background. On Canva, I mean, background removers for videos, background removers for images. I mean, yeah, it's just been the number one. It's easy for students to use. It's premium. It makes it look like a designer made it, and you're not a designer. It puts those tools that are actually being used in the business world in students' hands. I mean, my niece uses it and she's in public relations. Like, you know what I mean? It's amazing. And it's free. That's the kicker, is that it's free. And so there's no reason behind not using it. You know what I mean? It's just an amazing, amazing tool. But that's my number one. It's my only, actually. Nothing stood out this year that I was like, whoa, but like Canva had their conference in May, and I was like all over that. I was like, oh, I'm sitting through this one, because they introduced their AI, they introduced their magic, that's what they call it, but so many things that were so helpful, not only for the teacher side, the efficiency side, but like for, learners to be able to synthesize their learning in one location. I know you understand like cognitive load, and you don't want to overtax our learners. And I feel like sometimes we throw so many tools at them to do different things. Here's a tool for video editing. Here's a tool for a website. Here's a tool for, comic strips. Canva literally has all of those in there. And so it lessens that cognitive load. The learners know how to use that platform. And so it becomes like my go-to because it does that for me. They can worry about the content and how they're presenting it versus learning the tool, which sometimes kind of overshadows the content.
Absolutely. And it's interesting that you mentioned the free part, because I think one of the biggest frustrations I had in the classroom, this because we went through this together, things like Nearpod, a tool that I absolutely love and I think it's fantastic, but they get you excited about it, and then all of a sudden, 3 years later, the free part goes away and it's extremely expensive. So it seems like Canva is very committed to keeping the teacher portion free. It's kind of like Headspace did for teachers. I think they're still doing that, where you get lifetime free premium access as an educator. So I really appreciate that about Canva, their commitment to educators, where some of these, companies don't do that. So I do really like that. So you opened the door. So we're going to go there. You mentioned AI. I have played a little bit with Canva's AI, but I will tell you very honestly, I'm obsessed with ChatGPT. So I'm curious if you saw AI at school this year. What did it look like? What are you noticing and seeing in the world of AI with
Panic?
That's what I figured.
Panic.
Tell us about it.
So I'm seeing panic. Teachers are panicking. I'm trying to calm them down. So, really, I would say March when we had ChatGPT really, I mean, whew, it took everybody by storm. We had a conference and we were asked to find something that ChatGPT could not do. And one of the only things it couldn't do was create a personal narrative because it's not a person, doesn't have a narrative. So there was no, so that was the one thing. So everything, all the projects we were kind of coming up with was like, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? Well, what did we do when Google came out? Okay. And I know before Google we had search engines, but I mean, Google, far and wide became crazy. We had to change how we perceive the way we get knowledge. And the way that we perceive, like teachers going, well, they're going to look everything up and they're going to do, I go, our perception of how we acquire knowledge has changed in the 23 years I've been in education. I used to have to always reserve library card with all the books on the Industrial Revolution or, Civil War. And that would be rolled into my classroom, and, that has all changed. And so we have to kind of look at how do we perceive how do we acquire our knowledge? Because it's different now. AI exists. It's not going to go away. We can't pretend it doesn't exist. Teachers looking at their assessments and like, what are we going to do? How are we going to handle this? That kind of thing. What I've told them is that they need to be open, especially at the high school level. We're talking about kids that are very savvy. We need to be open with them and talk to them about what it is, and what is our educational experience supposed to be. Like, if we're asking them to create, let's say, a newscast and film a newscast, some of that script could come from AI. But if they read it, not all AI is correct. So you have to know what you're reading is correct. So like I used AI. We have student helpers in our tech department this summer. And so I needed a job description. And I'll be honest with you, it was May. My brain was tired. It's been a long year. I put it in ChatGPT. And honestly, it gave me some good starting material. And then I personalized it and I put it in for the specifics of what we were really looking for. But it was that starting point that helped me kind of get it done, because I felt like there was a part of it that was, I was dreading getting started. That got it started for me. I was able to get it finished. So I will say it's been a hot topic. It's going to be a hot topic for a while. How do we implement these things within our classroom, but not hiding it from kids? Like we're saying, no, you cannot use this, because that makes it almost like a rebel, they told me I'm not supposed to use it. I'm going to go on, I'm going to use it. I'm going to definitely use it, So we want to take that out of it, it's bad, because it's not all bad. I mean, there's amazing AI that helps us with the business world and tracking our packages and getting things from point A to point B, and kind of giving them some background on where AI and how those types of algorithms are used, but also that it can be very beneficial to us. I'm in school. One of our little tasks is how do we use it? How can we use it? Someone put in a book and said, I need a game generated for 4 students with 25 questions on this book. And it generated a game. She read through all the questions. They were correct. And then she said, I need 2 variations. Read both of them, created those games. Like, it could be used really well for our efficiency. But you also need to know your stuff. Because if you don't know that it's incorrect, then, you're putting that out there that I also think we need to get better at how do we cite this? How do we let people know? Because we really should be open about the fact that we used it. Like, it shouldn't be that secret. Ooh, I'm not gonna say anything, but it's no, you used it. It should be cited. How do we cite it? I don't even think that's in APA.
Not yet, not that I know of.
No, no.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's interesting that you bring that up because I just had an experience with ChatGPT. Maybe 2 weeks ago, I was writing a blog post about grants for teachers. And I asked it to pull 3 articles that I could use to support. And it pulled 3 articles that looked great. And I went back to open them. I went to the college where I teach part-time too, and tried to open the articles. They were fake articles. So that is something to keep in mind. I do use ChatGPT regularly, but one thing, if I was still teaching, I would be telling my students, you have to know your stuff and you have to be willing to use it as a prompt and not do your homework for you. So that is, and then the other piece I wanted to ask you about, and because I'm a librarian by trade, plagiarism is a question that keeps coming up kind of in the circles that I'm reading, and teachers being really panicky about how do I detect if students are using ChatGPT, and there are so many tools now to check that. I'm just curious, is that worthwhile? Is that where we should be spending our time, trying to figure out if a kid has used ChatGPT?
I've already been asked to research it this summer.
It's a thing.
A part of my position is that I also coordinate our online program and help our teachers write and create their online courses. And this year we're going through an audit. We're going through the courses because it was 3 years ago when they were designed. So we're like, okay, time to go through them. And that's the number one thing the teachers were concerned about, is that they're going to put all of this in ChatGPT. And I said, how do we make this that they can't demonstrate their mastery with ChatGPT? Like, how? There, when you've written something and you've read one of your learners' writings, you know what their level of writing is versus something that they've pulled from the internet. I could detect it fast. I was like, whoa, that child did not write that, and I would just kind of give them the eyes, and they would be, oh, I looked it up, I said, you didn't cite it, you didn't use quotation mark, like, you know what I mean? Talking about all the things that they should have done. Really kind of going through that and kind of informing our learner that just because you used it doesn't mean that you're going to be in the clear. Like, oh, well, it's not. I've heard numerous times exactly what you just said, that it was fake articles.
Mhm.
And so, someone said about my, writing a dissertation and that they might use, I'm like, oh, no way. There's too much time and effort in this. I'm not screwing it up with,
Mhm.
putting something in ChatGPT. So, I think it's really making them well-informed. They need to understand what the tool is for, and the repercussions of using it inappropriately. But I
Absolutely.
know our teachers are very, and I was looking into a few different ones that say they can detect, writings from, different AI. And I was like, I don't know. I don't trust it.
I would agree, and it's just funny, I had a conversation today with somebody about, I think it's copy leaks is one of the big
Yep.
ones right now,
Yep.
and it's very hit or miss. So you'd have to be really, really sure before you would accuse a student of plagiarism if you're using a tool that is not guaranteed to work. So I'm with you on this one, and this is kind of where I'm standing, that I think we have to move past the idea of checking everything for plagiarism with ChatGPT. I think we have to think about our prompts and how we're assessing students.
Yeah.
That's going to have to change, just like it has in the past. So
Right.
I agree with you. So we actually kind of moving towards the end of our time here. I'm going to
Oh my
ask you one
gosh.
more question. I know I told you that would happen. So I'm going to ask you one more question, and I'm going to open it up to questions from the audience. Um, Looking ahead, I think you may have already answered this, but looking ahead, what are some emerging trends or technologies that you're looking at for future integration in your school district?
AI, AI. We're really looking at how to make our staff better informed. Some of them have very different ideas of what it is. Some have not even looked at it at all, like at all. And so, preparing our staff to prepare their students, and being able to kind of get them ready to, show them how to do it and use it correctly, and appropriately within the classroom. I know that podcasting isn't new. I know that, but for learners that are young, it is new. Elementary, middle school, they aren't listening to podcasts. And not necessarily even all high schoolers, but with I believe that the ability to get your words down, formulate a plan, a script, who's going to speak, what they're going to speak about. I think that that is one that is definitely been, I know in our area, I don't know about across the country, but there's not a lot of, other than NPR, and I've searched, there's not a lot of resources for elementary, middle school to get podcasting and how to do it well within the classroom. So it is something that we're going to be working on professional development wise. And we are still doing VRA and AR. So we just upgraded all of our stuff. So we are still using that, and it's probably our most requested materials.
Ooh, can I segue off of that one? Because
Mhm.
you and I worked very hard on that
Our
part
first
of the
grant, yeah.
curriculum. That was it. It was virtual reality. But with Google Expeditions having, gone away, is there a tool that you're really relying on for VR and AR?
So Expeditions Pro, we have been using exclusively, especially with elementary, because it is free. It's free. It's very much like the Google Expeditions, but it's Expeditions Pro. It's really, really great. And that's the one we're using. But we still, like, I still in the upper levels, I'll go, I do especially if we're doing like places, the 360 videos. What is the one called with 360? It's like 360. That's what it's called, 360. But YouTube 360 as well. AR, we have been playing with, oh my goodness. Well, we have Merge Cubes, and we got the paid subscription for Merge, which has been really, really cool for the learners. So we've been using that, and mostly I would say science and health classes, because of the materials that they have, like looking at a heart that is, you're turning it in your hand, and you're studying the heart and the vessels. And I mean, it's amazing. So that's what we're kind of really kind of using at the moment. But there is one more, and I can't think of the name of that AR, that you can build it yourself. So as long as you have a location, the learner can build the AR. I know Discovery Ed came out with Sandbox. I played around with that a little bit. It still needs more. It needs more elements, if you will. We need Canva to do it.
Canva will do it well. That.
Canva can do it.
That is fantastic information. So we actually then did reach the end of our time. So I'm not seeing the Q&A piece, so I don't know if I set that up correctly, but if anyone has any questions, if you want to go ahead and put them in the chat, we'll try to get maybe one or two of them in. It does look like we have one right now. Megan is asking, how do you use Expedition Pro with students who don't have phones?
Okay, so we have class sets of VR headsets that already have phones in them. So I go in, I take the class sets in, and I lead the Expeditions Pro. Now, at the high school level, those learners just want to be on their phone themselves. I do let them do that to a point, but I still ask them to try to use the headsets, just because the immersion of it's the experience is better with the headsets. And so that's how we do it. But yeah, it's just, we do have elementary, we do have iPads, and Expeditions Pro you can use on iPads now. So we allow, if they can't reserve, the teacher can't reserve us to come in and do it. We do open it up that they can go in and have the kids look at them too. But they like us to come in because we come in with a lesson, and it's all fun.
Absolutely. Then someone asked, will we be providing a list of tools mentioned today? Yes. When I send out the recording, it will probably be tomorrow or at the end of the week. I will include a list of the tools that Liz shared with us today. So that will definitely be available. Are there any other questions before we say goodbye for the school year? All right. Well, I want to thank Liz Lubeskie so much for taking time to chat with us today. Of course, it was a special treat for me because I haven't seen her face in so long. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate you. And for all of you that are attending or watching in the future, we hope that you have a terrific and restful summer, and we will be seeing you again in the fall. So thank you again. Look for the email tomorrow or the next day with the recording and the resources. There should be a survey that pops up when you go to exit. We'd love for you to fill it out so we know what we can add for future webinars. Thank you all so much. Have a wonderful summer.